on the
There
point.
you go.
The house that he moved out of is like,
Right.
how big is that house, about 6,000 square feet?
Oh, my goodness.
75, yeah, big 3-car garage, yeah. We're good, Ted.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order at 8 a.m. We have the minutes in front of you from the last meeting. I'll take a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Bob, second by Janine. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Treasurer's report.
Okay, statement of cash transactions, as you remember, last month was very simple. We have the normal interest, $271, our checks that went out, $4,200, and the disbursements were just to the town and for some travel for Tom. So the balance at the end of the month was $1,750,067. If we look at the income statement, which I think is 2 pages back in your packet, you'll see the management fee and the meeting expense fee, but then there's an accounts payable that you'll see on the next sheet for financial services and attorney fees for next month, and that's going to be it for the income statement. So then if you look at the balance sheet, you'll see the checking and savings account balances and the accounts payable that I mentioned come in under the liabilities, that $80.9350. We've got the bonds that are outstanding, the GM litigation accrued amount, for a total fund balance of $1436,604, and the total liabilities, investment in fixed assets and fund balance of $2763,882. And that's it for the first section of the report. Questions?
All right, no questions for Bob. I'll take a motion then.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Janine,
I'll second.
second by Eric. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the invoices and bills.
Okay, so for the checks we have to write for October, we've got the town monies, travel, the Toshiba contract, we have the lawyer and the accountants that I mentioned previously. Wendell, an update, is that what these other things are in our packet here?
No, it was the surveying the 10-acre parcel.
Oh, okay. $550 for Wendell, and then one of our standard utility payments of $100 to NYSEG. And I make a motion that we pay our bills.
Okay, motion by Bob, pay the bills.
Second.
Second by Janine. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Administrative Director's report for
Yeah,
Tom.
I'll try and go quick. There is no update on the Avient Poly 1 plant manager. We had talked before about that kind of rapid departure, and they've not replaced that individual yet. You guys saw, and I threw a copy in of the simple little business first profile that they did, which I thought was good promotion for the town. Business first tends to not really realize Niagara County exists unless it's something ginormous like Amazon, so it's always good that they cross the border and come up into Niagara County. We did have them redo the 10-acre parcel 1, given the current interest by the party we've had discussions with, but really we've had so much other interest in it, it really made sense. I think the benefit of it for me was, I didn't get copies for you, but if you look at that parcel, and if you're looking south, the east end has a wood lot and then sort of a ditch, and I really didn't know where that parcel ended or not, and it really incorporates all of that wood lot. In fact, if you walk it, you'll get to the ditch / mini wetlands, and that kind of exactly forms the eastern barrier of it. So it's pushes fairly far back. It's not far before you then hit the easement for the big Yahoo power line. So anyway, that's helpful to know. And we now have one for either the current interested entity or the future use. Just by way of, you saw the bill for paying for electricity. Actually, one of the council people reviewed some of the utility bills and saw one that made it appear as if it was Yahoo's Enterprise Drive sign. When we did some more research, it really was, as we've all assumed, even looking at the meter numbers and stuff, our sign at Junction Road and Enterprise Drive. What's yet to be solved is that I've always assumed that the National Grid bill we get is for that sign, and then the NYSEG bill we get is for the Upper Mountain Road. That meter and chasing the conduit over to a NYSEG pole on Enterprise Drive is all NYSEG. So it now kind of begs the question of what the heck is the National Grid bill for? The challenge on the National Grid bill is because it's for outdoor lighting, ergo there is no meter. So Kate, when she gets a spare moment, will then switch her attention to Bird Dog National Grid to see what the story is. But a minor little issue that it's just one of those you'd think you'd know. I'll hold off on the IDA PC. I do have a quote for a new PC for this unit here. I wasn't necessarily looking for a quote for a new computer. I am looking for a quote for a new hard drive and one other issue. This machine, and I understand why they did it back then, I didn't know you could even get them. It has an actual mechanical hard drive, like that it has to. And so on Thursday mornings and the other time I use it in the month, if something doesn't go right or there's a update and so on, I really can't even describe to you how long that takes to shut that down and restart it up, or if this thing malfunctions and having to reshut everything down and so on. But I also, like I said, didn't even really know they still made machines with mechanical hard drives. So at some point I'll bring you some sort of a recommendation, but I don't want to just throw $1,000 around for a new PC just for the hell of it without looking for the other opportunities.
Real quick on that topic, does Synchronet cover, cover everything?
Yeah, they were great. Like, they dialed into this machine with me one day and gave me a new shortcut to how to get that to behave itself if it's not behaving itself without shutting the whole system down and all. But they also did go through the whole system and said, here's part of your problem, here's your other problem. Ran all sorts of updates, but it did nothing to improve the performance. But yeah, no, they...
Synchronet's the IT entity that the town hired earlier this year to swap over, but I know that they've got in their plans
to replace
replacement of
5
equipment
at a
and
time.
stuff, so I would make sure that you're in line with what the town's doing generally
Sure.
on that.
Yep. This I'll pass around and I'll email it to you today because I don't think I've got much time, but it is of somewhat substance. The Buffalo Niagara Partnership, i.e. the kind of Buffalo Niagara Chamber-esque organization, about a month ago reached out to most of the economic development organizations in the either the 6 or 7 county region of Western New York and said, look, we're going to be signing on to this Size Up program. We're branding it sort of Size Up Western New York. It's being underwritten for 3 years on a grant from National Grid. Yeah, National Grid. But we'd like to offer you, economic development organizations, the opportunity to partner with them and endorse this, host this, leverage it, again, at no cost. What it really is, and I won't take too much time, is kind of an amazing market research tool that can be as hyper-local as the block you're on to state and region for really any industry SIC code I've ever seen. So if a manufacturer is trying to decide, what, am I the only one that's not marketing my product through Instagram, Facebook, website, it'll tell you it. Am I the only one that has 15 or less employees? And there's 4 main areas that it can assist them. And what I like about it is, and whether it's a manufacturer or whether it's a smoke shop on transit, we'll be able to kind of assist them and say, well, did you see the tutorials? Do you have any other questions? Are you getting the kind of information you want from it, if you will? But I'll send this to you. You guys can go back out and take a look at Size Up nationally, but it's good. We have not had our own tutorials yet. We will, but I was kind of whatever you wanna call it, excited about it. What do I wanna do on, build back better, that's interesting. Yeah, I'll come back to that. I did get an update that this FAST, F-A-S-T grant, that remember has the 3 categories for site development, and one of them being, pre-design expenses. It's finally gonna come out in November, and I do want to apply for it. I'm envisioning maybe 10 to 15K cost to Wendell to update. This is all on IDA South, which we were doing. Everything from updating their roads to their infrastructure, guesstimates and so on and so forth. But it's not the, hey, we need $1 million to put roads in, it's the, hey, we need to pay Wendell 10 or 15K to update their work. But the other one that I do want to work on, at least to get a quote for, which we've talked about before, is the wetlands delineations in there. One, to see how much they've changed, but if they've changed, that might dictate what Wendell ought to do. But at this point, all I want to do is send out the RFP to 3 entities, so that I know what that number is. I can't file a grant and not know whether that company's gonna charge us 10K, 20K, or what have you. So Rob sent me a decent RFP. I can run it through Tom before it goes out. There's no hurry per se. And then there's 3 entities, not including Labella. We weren't really all that in love with Labella before. We have their previous studies. We'd obviously have the new entities take a look at that work, whoever we pick. But I'll run it by Tom, but I just want to get that RFP out so I know what a cost would be for wetlands delineation. So at this point, our whole focus is, come November, what kind of a grant am I applying for in that section B? But I think that's, you all saw the information on Build Back Better, the win for Western New York, which was the, what was it, 25 or 27 mil. They had been looking for 100 mil. It's still all good. It's a lot of workforce development, which is never bad. Not surprising from my perspective, just like we're seeing in everything else. A ton of that focus is east side of Buffalo. And that's good. My only fear about that is, can one of our manufacturers convince some kid from the east side of Buffalo, after he's done it in Northlands or Goodwill for that matter, to come out to Niagara County and work, if you will. So it's a little difficult to say whether that workforce stuff will really trickle down to benefiting Niagara County or not. But still, you know, there weren't a lot of regions that were successful with that Build Back Better, and so you know, we'll celebrate that win anyway. So no, I think that's all. Just as an FYI, the fall brush hogging's begun. He might even be done. I know he's obviously not doing it today, but 2 days ago he had pretty much finished IDA Park South, so that obviously takes him the most time. So he may have clicked through those other parcels in the park, but anyway, that works underway. I did reach out to our farmer and say, are you going to do the 10 acres once more? And it was strange. He was like, well, you know, I might. It's weather dependent, so it doesn't matter. The one time helps that parcel, but usually he's done it twice. But that's up to him. It's obviously not like his money gets him 1 versus 2 cuttings. So, no, that's all I had on the administrative director's report. I do have those 2 items under new business.
All right, thanks, Tom. And we'll move on to the attorney's report.
We've got the host community agreement with renewable properties on the agenda. I guess the only thing to report is the town board has approved that host community agreement that we all worked together on getting that out. So that's good news. It's out for signatures. And when we receive it back from renewable properties, we'll start working on a closing for the incentivization package, which is going to be a little bit of an effort, but probably look at that for a couple months from now, I'm imagining. Maybe hopefully by the end of the year, depending on how it goes.
Yeah.
And then our work will be done here for that project, and, they're likely going to start, probably start putting in some road work, I think, this fall, and then I would anticipate likely springtime that they're actually building their project out there. Is likely the time frame.
Sounds good.
So that's all I have on that, other than, we're gonna do an executive session,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
Request one for consultation with the attorney.
Okay. All right, thanks, Tom. Any old business
Nope.
and new business?
Yeah, I'll walk you through the draft budget, and I would underline draft. I think even Janine's been through this once. You know, we've got the last 5 years out there, and then also showing you, maybe more importantly, last year's budget in that darker column. There's always 2 or 3 things that are almost impossible to anticipate. Most notably would be the administrative fees. At this point, and I can change it quite quickly, if we think we're gonna close on renewable properties in 2022, then I would pull it out of here. But right now, what you see in administrative fees is the final installment of Yahoo's 90-ish K, and it does have the renewable properties 140 in it. I can show you what lines down below we would quickly modify if we just pull the 140. We typically just assume 3 projects at $1,000. Another one that's kind of a total tough to figure out is the gain on the sale of properties in terms of what kind of acreage might we sell. This kind of just assumes some, 1.5 acre, we'll talk later on in a second about Bison Bag and so on, which again, I can kind of come back and put that into a more realistic number. And by the way, I should start off, really what we tend to typically do is really see what our actual expenses are gonna be and try and back then into it, with the exception of being those 2 swag numbers. So the numbers under expenditures, until you get down to really engineering fees, as well as the purchase of land and right-of-way at the bottom, are real numbers. We've tweaked a little bit, but we've gone in and sort of have said, look, we know there's a 2.5% increase in these lines. I know that I might want to tweak up some of the advertising, so that number's a little bit higher this year. We're just a little bit thin in dues and memberships this year, actually, so that's just been tweaked a bit. But depending on if I pull the 140 out of up top, and I can do that if we think we close by December 31st, then you'll see significant decreases in both the engineering fees and the purchase of land and right-of-way to make it balanced. So as you take a look at this, we vote on it next month. And the expenditures, look carefully at all the expenditures other than engineering fees and purchase of land, because those are real or, extremely slightly tweaked up, whereas up in income, we do have our rental income. I've assumed interest would be just a teeny bit higher, but then the others really will vary. And so I'll at a minimum go in and pull the 140 out. So it'll look a little bit differently, but the only lines that will look differently really would be that admin fees and then those 2 expenditure fees. So if you see anything else or have other questions, A, you can ask them now, or B, we'll have it back on the agenda for an actual vote in November.
Okay.
I sketched out a quick calculation when Bob was doing the treasurer's report. We could move some of our cash assets into short-term T-bills.
Huh?
We'd gain about $20,000 in interest
Wow.
in a 6-month period.
Well,
We're allowed to do that?
Mm-hmm.
sure.
They send the rules?
Yeah, we can do T-bills. We can do government-issued bonds.
Okay.
And that would be using 1.1 million of our savings account, so we'd still keep over $500,000 liquid in case the GM resolution ever happened.
The GM or the purchase of Bison's land back from Yahoo.
Yeah, so if we did, I just sketched it, if we did 1.1 million, we'd get about 21,000 of interest if we did a 6-month T-bill. Be less if we did 3 months, but you could do 3 months if you guys wanted to get liquid faster.
And you can't-
But again, that would be like, compared to what the bank is giving us, that would be $20,000 of interest we weren't expecting.
Yeah,
And there's no stipulation on how much cash we have to hold?
no, there is just a checking account, needs to have 100.
Certainly
Grand.
makes sense to do that then.
Yeah, now that rates have come up, you could just work, you have all the authority you need to do it, you don't need a board vote or anything.
You could use Evans to do it, or,
So interestingly enough, you can actually buy it fully online through the government. So we'd move money from Evans into the government, it's treasurydirect.gov, and you do the transaction right there. So it's mildly complicated, but not like, you're not spending 5 days on it.
It's just a direct transfer, obviously, for the bank account.
Yep.
So are we better off doing the 3-month now, since interest rates are likely going up even further? and then
I'd say it's probably,
6 months?
you could definitely do 3 months and then renew in 3 months and not feel like you made a mistake.
Right,
Because, correct, you're gonna have higher interest rates.
right,
then nobody's gonna get anxious about, there is a need for money for
right.
Right,
Yahoo land.
we need money,
automatically
but it's
renew.
so far in the future,
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
Does it automatically renew to
I
the bill?
don't think it automatically does, no, I think you'd have to go in at
Every
maturity
time,
and give instructions, yeah.
Um,
But that's a lot of money that could drop onto the budget
Yeah.
and pay for some of those things that we haven't been able to do that at all for years, because
Right.
rates were nothing.
yeah, great. The only other thing I have on a new business is, this is the month that we do the CEO evaluation. One, for feedback from me, but then secondarily, it is an element in the Paris report. I have 3 so far in, Eric, Janine, and Todd. So if anybody needs a new one.
Go team.
Yeah, if anybody needs a new one, a blank one, I've got some here. Drop it off or scan it over to Maureen. We'll, okay.
And Bob.
I gave up fighting with the electronic version.
Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah, I
for
did that too.
We'll email the other 3 on. And Maureen will coalesce it, and I'll bring the collective results back in November. The other thing to remind you in November is, remember, the board self-evaluation will come out in November, so don't be confused, but there are the 2 evaluations, kind of back-to-back. But those will be coming out soon. So, nope, that's all the new business, and as you heard, we do want to go into executive session for consultation with attorney.
Okay, so I'll take a motion to move into executive session for consultation with our attorney.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Motion by
second.
Bob, second by Janine. All right.
I'll second.
Second by Eric. All right. Next meeting is Thursday, November 10th.
I will not be here.
Okay, no Janine, Tom.
As long as we're on that, I will not be here for December.
Okay,
What's the date of the December meeting?
Should be the 8th. All right, we'll query other people that we didn't have today for November, we just don't want to, because there'll be one, the board self-evaluation is due. I think I think I start to run some of the BS policies that need annual review, prepare us in November and December, but most importantly, we do vote on the budget in November, so there will be that one action item, but, yeah, we'll query the other folks.
All right, I'll take a motion to close the meeting then.
So moved.
Motion by Bob, second by Janine. Meeting is adjourned.
Okay, appreciate it.
Do you want this off, Tom?
Yeah, you can take it off, yep.
Tom, on that budget item, what are your